presentations. Each one will be about a different project area that we're working on. So please let us know if you have any questions. We have literature on any of our project areas that we'd be happy to give you up here. We also have an exhibit in the exhibit hall, and we'll also be hosting a side event on Friday from 1 to 2:30. So please come to that. Do you know what the room is offhand? It's in Liva Wheel. Apologies for the pronunciation if that's wrong, but 1 o'clock to 2:30 on Friday is our side event. So I'll introduce Dr. Yufu Cheng, who is our managing director, and he is going to give a brief overview of iCET, the Innovation Center for Energy and Transportation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sticking around for so late. I know today is a very tough day for most of you because the register line is so long. And to begin, I want to introduce what the Innovation Center for Energy and Transportation is, or iCET. iCET is an NGO and it's a not-for-profit organization registered in Beijing. So we have the main office in Beijing. And we also have the office in the United States in Los Angeles, California. So our main funding funding source from the U.S. foundations, charity foundations like Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, Hillard Foundation, Energy Foundations. And also we get support from the UK government, California government. So our main areas are three directions. The low carbon transportation, Robert earlier will talk about in detail later on, which will include low carbon fuels and low carbon vehicles. So that's the low carbon transportation. And then we have the energy and the climate registries. It's climate change directions that Lucia will talk about. And Robin as well. Robin is the vice president of the climate registry based in California. It is a US NGO. The third direction we have is energy efficiency and green energy. So maybe I can just give a little bit about the energy efficiency project. So we're working on the green lighting system, the LED standards and the policy development in China. So we want to use the real green projects to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Now I want to turn the microphone to Robert Early. He will introduce us the low carbon transportation area. Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Yufu. iCET was started on low carbon transportation in 2006. We have three major projects on low carbon transportation. The first one is vehicle fuel economy standards and analysis, an environmentally friendly vehicle analysis and promotion program, as well as a low carbon fuel standards policy program. The first program is on the fleet fuel economy of different companies in China. And between 2006 and 2008, we've collected market data and the emissions data from every company that makes cars in China. And you can see here that, for example, Chery has the lowest emissions of cars in China, and Beijing-Benz, Mercedes-Benz, Guangzhou Toyota, and BMW have the highest emitting vehicles in China. And we've done this analysis in 2006, 2007, 2008, and every year we find that Beijing-Benz is still the highest emitting vehicle company by fleet average in China. And BMW is also, well, one of the highest. The second project we have going is the online green car rating system, where we have every model of vehicle available in China, passenger vehicle, and we give every single model a green car value. And we can also calculate the carbon dioxide emissions from using those vehicles. And basically, it's at greencarchina.org. And you can select your car manufacturer, you can select the brand, and you can select the engine size, and then you can search for different vehicles. So you too can search for your vehicle on greencarchina.org and see how well it performs environmentally. And finally is the Low Carbon Fuel Standards Project. Basically, this project started in 2007, and we hope to understand the life cycle greenhouse gas emissions of transportation fuels. We're developing a methodology for calculating life cycle greenhouse gas emissions, and we're looking at policy options for helping China to adjust its sources of fuel over time to make a lower carbon transportation sector. Our project partners are the Development Research Center of the State Council of China, the Vehicle Emission Control Center of the Ministry of Environmental Protection, the China National Institute of Standardization, as well as E4Tech, which is a UK-based consultancy that has done a lot of methodology development in this area. Basically, in 2006, China's transport fuel demand was 182 million tons, and China had set some renewable alternative fuel targets by 2010 to have 2 million tons of bioethanol produced per year and 10 million tons of bioethanol produced by 2020. And that can have up to 40% greenhouse gas emission savings compared to conventional gasoline. And depending on the methodology you use and the things you consider in the calculation, it can also be 0%. But cellulosic ethanol can be up to 60% in greenhouse gas savings. And biodiesel, China had a target for 2010 to produce 200,000 tons, and by 2020 to produce 2 million tons. And biodiesel, if it's made from used cooking oil, as most biodiesel in China is, it can have greenhouse gas emission savings of up to 85%. And we've done some research with manufacturers in China of biodiesel to prove this. So the questions we ask are, can these fuels help to reduce the carbon intensity of China's transportation sector sustainably? And also, what about coal to liquid fuels that China is developing at this time? Coal to liquid fuels can have up to twice as much greenhouse gas emission per liter as conventional fossil fuel. And it's very important from a greenhouse gas emission standpoint that we avoid the development of coal to liquid fuels, even though they help to make the energy structure in China more secure. And these are some of the partners that we're working with on this project, including government, including some of the larger oil companies in China, some NGOs, major universities, and other fuel producers in China. So we have a broad stakeholder group that can help contribute to this. This is the basic structure. Basically, we want to try and include everyone in the development of this information and standards and implement targets over a long term. And this work is made possible by the Energy Foundation, the United Kingdom Foreign and Commonwealth Office, Strategic Program Fund, as well as the Hewlett Foundation. So with that, I'll pass it on to Lucia, who's going to introduce the Energy and Climate Registry project.
Thanks. Yeah, just before I do that, actually, we have Robin Camp, who's the Vice President from the Climate Registry in California, and we've developed, we entered a partnership with the Climate Registry 2 years ago, and that led to the project, which I'll talk about. But I'll just turn over to Robin first to talk a little bit about her work in California. Robin isn't from iCET, but she'll talk about her work.
Yeah, just those is Dr. Feng An just arrived. Please come up. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so my organization is called the Climate Registry, and as Yufu said, we are a North American NGO that has been working with organizations since 2002 to report their annual greenhouse gas emissions inventory. Working on the foundation of the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, we have taken that standard and turned it into a user's manual, a user's guide that implements the principles of the GHG protocol in a manner that is really comparable, consistent, transparent, and accurate. And we have been working with over 500 organizations to report their information each year, have it third-party verified, and then have it publicly disclosed through our website. And it's a voluntary program. And then the Climate Registry also works with jurisdictions across North America to support mandatory reporting programs as well. And through these tools, we have both monitoring of emissions, reporting of emissions, and then independent verification. And we are delighted to be working with iCET as they help and advising them and helping them to launch what we believe will be a sister registry in southern China. And I think this is really exciting. I know Lucia will talk more about the project, but registries are a great policy-neutral tool to help build capacity, to raise awareness of the issues, and to help each individual organization understand what its footprint is. We always say you can't manage what you don't measure. And the first step is really to measure in a consistent way. It's a policy-neutral option that really helps organizations, the public, and policymakers understand the impact of greenhouse gas emissions. So again, it's really a pleasure to work with iCET, and we are honored to be a partner with them working in support of the Energy and Climate Registry.
Thanks, Robin. So now I'll just go through a couple of points just to explain the parameters of the program that we're doing in China that is based on the Climate Registry's work in California and in all throughout North America. So just first, I think a very important point by way of context is to understand the role that China plays in the global carbon emissions, and we've been hearing about a lot of this at this conference, but China is the largest country population-wise, and it also has a huge economy and is becoming increasingly the world's factory, producing a disproportionate amount of the world's goods and therefore absorbing also a disproportionate amount of the greenhouse gases in the world. So it's a very complicated question to deal with, and we've been hearing that the China delegates dealing with this precise issue, how to measure the carbon emissions from China. So our solution to that problem, which is very timely right now, is this voluntary tool, the Energy and Climate Registry. There's already a lot of initiatives underway. China has just announced its goal to reduce energy intensity per unit of GDP by 2020 from 2005 levels by 40 to 45%. So that's a really big reduction. And I put a couple of the areas where this is being done: public transportation, low carbon fuels and energy efficient vehicles. Renewable energy is, China is one of the leaders in solar and wind energy. Also clean coal technology and carbon capture and sequestration. And then also other ways of conserving energy and improving energy efficiency. But all of these projects have in common the need to quantify those emissions. So what percentage of the emissions have been saved by undergoing these programs. And so to do that, we've developed this registry. So what is the Energy and Climate Registry? The registry is a voluntary registry, and it reports data on energy intensity as well as greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a distinction from the California model, which just measures carbon emissions. We are also measuring just energy intensity to fit the parameters of the goals that have been stated by the Chinese government, which is also measured in energy intensity. It is based on the California model. Our methodology is very much comes from their general reporting protocol, and we've been working on that. That's currently under development, so there's still some areas that we're working on. The goal is to produce reliable, transparent, and verifiable data that's standardized, so that we want to have it be in line with international standards, and that it can be used by businesses to track and meet energy efficiency targets. And again, the last point is really just that the idea is to have a common standard and to have China be part of a global movement to standardize emissions accounting. A couple of questions: who can report to this? Who can be a member? And we call them reporters. Almost any body, so multinational corporations, state-owned enterprises,